Hello, so I'm just gonna make a video so, to speculate on ideas about the natural law approach to sexual ethics. And I haven't revised sexual ethics for quite a while, so I'm just basically pulling this out of the top of my head. And I have an adequate understanding of natural law, I'd say. So natural law, I'll give like a brief introduction to it and some key scholars. So, key thinkers are Aristotle, the Stoics, and Aquinas. And I think the Roman Catholic Church, but I don't really know what their input is, so I'll just leave them out for now. And also the Greeks, but then that pretty much encompasses Aristotelian thinking. So Aristotle said that everything has a purpose, and he called this telos, and it's also, you can link this to the word teleological, which basically means consequences or end, and telos also means end. So yeah, there's just a little bit of information. What fulfills its purpose is good. What works towards fulfilling its purpose is good, and what goes away from its purpose is bad. So that's how we determine how things are good. So and everything has an ultimate purpose, and for humans supposedly that was eudaimonia, which means human flourishing, and we can interpret this as also happiness, but it's more than just pleasure or something trivial. It's like, as well as being emotionally wealthy, so being happy, it's also I guess taking responsibility and flourishing, prospering tangibly. So it's like we have material wealth also. And we can link this to the Logos, which pretty much holds all this together. And I made a video about the Logos yesterday, and it's basically it's the ultimate archetype of the positive logic, or logic which gets us to the ordered state within society. And but it's not just logic, because you can reason yourself to do bad things. It's also it's that reasoning to get to the good place in society, whatever that may mean. And so that's supposedly eudaimonia, and that does make sense, because if the individual flourishes, and if the individual has material wealth and a family, and all these different components are just in place, then that's gonna create a better environment for society. I guess you can't deny that if the individual is holy and fulfilled, then that's gonna almost act as a ripple on the rest of society. And individuals who aren't completely integrated, they're going to cause problems for society, and they're going to commit crimes, and they're going to have to meet their social needs in other ways, or perhaps turn to more deviant behaviour, such as criminal behaviour, drug taking, things like that. And that obviously causes problems for the wider community and for society as a whole. So that's a little bit of information about purpose and the Logos and how they're interlinked. So now I guess you can sort of understand why those things are important. Now we can implement Aquinas, and Aquinas postulated 5 primary precepts, and these were to live in an ordered society, reproduce, educate children, worship God, and I forgot the last one, or the first one, because I've done these backwards. Ordered society, worship God, educate children, reproduce, self-preservation, or preservation of the innocent. Those are the 5 primary precepts, and those are in relation to natural law. I guess Aquinas was influenced by Aristotelian thinking, and he derived the primary precepts from reason and logic, and again we can link this to the logos. If we do these 5 things, then we will live in a better society. These are things which will undeniably improve society. So how can we link this to sexual ethics? Well, sex, we can link this to the primary precepts, which says we have to reproduce, so we have to have children. But how are we going to do that in the way which is going to be conducive to promoting social order, which is also a primary precept? Now, the Conservatives say that we should have the nuclear family, we should wait till we're married to have sex, and we shouldn't have loads of children. We should basically treat it as a practical issue almost. And yeah, but whereas liberals will argue that people should be sexually liberated, we should be able to have sex outside of marriage, and that's what happened in the hippie era. We had this massive flip in our values, whereby it was once a taboo to have sex before marriage, and it was once a taboo to have children out of wedlock, and now we have contraception, and this has, I guess, led to the decline in stigma, where people feel more able to be more sexually open, which perhaps is a good thing, but I think, as we can see, it doesn't promote an ordered society. And there seems to be a backlash on this at the minute with I think it's the Me Too movement or something like that. And the idea that now that females are left to their own devices to deal with the male libido, because we no longer have the social stigma in place to try and almost encapsulate it and make the decision for people of you just shouldn't have sex before marriage. Now people have to make that decision, and there's quite a blurred line between consent and non-consent, and this is extremely prevalent in a lot of cases in today's society. Like I was just watching something earlier about a woman who anonymously, I think that's the right word, anonymously doesn't feel like the right word, who anonymously accused a man of raping her, but it turned out to be just an uncomfortable date. It's like she had sexual experiences with this man, yet she stayed in his apartment. She carried on the sexual experience with him, and she never actually said no. And basically, liberals are making the argument that men should be more qualified at picking up on non-verbal cues when a woman doesn't want to have sex. And it's like, oh, okay, well, now it's basically, and considering it as criminal to basically objectify women by saying that women are attractive, physically attractive. And so this is an example of people trying to, I'll say the left in particular, trying to implement rules whereby, which is as a result of them completely eradicating the rules back in the 60s and 70s, where the hippie movement came about, and we had this liberation. It's like you choose the action, you choose the consequences, and this is the consequences. The consequences is that people don't. There's a blurred line on the topic of sexual ethics. It's between consent and non-consent, and now we're trying to fix that, and things have just got extremely messy. So we can link this back to natural law and say that because natural law takes a traditional approach to sexual ethics, it promotes the idea of no sexual relations outside of marriage, and that in turn promotes an ordered society, and it would debatably, almost definitely, stop the things from happening in society which are happening today because of sexual liberation in the 60s. And I was kind of like this. I don't know, I feel like natural law is a helpful method of moral decision making when it comes to sex. Like, yes, it's good to be able to have sex with people and not be ridiculed by society for not being in a legally binding contract or a marriage. but then again we have to reap the consequences of that, which is a lot of single parent households. And I'm not saying that single parent households can't socialise children properly, because I'm from a single parent household, but then again we could make the argument that I went through an extremely difficult time in my teenage years where I would say I rebelled a lot more than the average teenager would. Perhaps that's due to being a single parent household. Perhaps that's due to having a dad who's a bit of a dickhead. But yeah, had I have been born into a nuclear family with whereby we had more traditional values, would that have happened? I don't know. Probably not. And I don't regret that happening, because I'm happy being the person I am today. For the most part. Obviously I have problems with myself, but yeah, anyway, this is getting a bit off topic. Yeah, so I think natural law is a helpful method at dealing with sexual ethics, because just the idea that it coincides with the logos, and it just seems logical, and it does promote an odd society. Yeah, but obviously there's the dark side of the family, whereby it's not always a nice place. Anyway, this is going to cut out in like 10 seconds, so yeah, I might make another video on this later. Thanks for watching.